Although it may not be one of the city's most famous museums in the guidebooks, it is definitely one of its most important. The Museo dell'Opera di Santa Maria del Fiore hosts many of Florence's absolute masterworks. Among them, Lorenzo Ghiberti's Gates of Paradise, Michelangelo's Pietà, and the spectacular silver altar from the baptistry, which took a century to complete. The Cathedral Museum in Florence contains all of the original works made to adorn the cathedral complex, including the cathedral itself, Giotto's bell tower, and the baptistry. Director of the Museo dell'Opera di Santa Maria del Fiore, Monsignor Timothy Verdon, told us about some of the museum's most famous works.
The Museo dell'Opera di Santa Maria del Fiore, the Cathedral Museum in Florence, attracts people for many reasons, but I think that the principal attractions are perhaps in the first place the Michelangelo Pita, because the name of Michelangelo draws people, even if they're very unfamiliar with Florence and its art and its church art. The Michelangelo Pita is one of the master's last works. It's a deeply personal work. He includes, and it's the only work in which he does it, his own self-portrait. And he shows himself as one of the men who took Christ's body from the cross, Nicodemus. It was carved indeed as Michelangelo prepared for death. He was in his 70s when he finished it, and that really deeply touches people, moves them, and is a superb work of art. Today, we would have to add to that the Lorenzo Ghiberti Gates of Paradise, which after 27 years of restoration have been brought back, not to the baptistry, because the air that we breathe is so damaging that the bronze cannot be exposed to it again. They've been brought to the museum. They are indeed in the very grand case behind me here. They really were just installed on the 8th of September. And we've seen the number of visitors to the museum double in that period. These works, which are perhaps the grandest summation of all that the beginning of the early Renaissance tried to do. They were completed in 1452. These works are among the most important masterpieces of the whole history of Western art, absolutely unique. And in their restored form, they communicate magnificently all that they were meant to, the Bible stories, their stories from the Old Testament, but also the absolute Florentine primacy in the new arts that had been invented in the early 15th century. Ghiberti here shows that he has mastered the skill of linear perspective. He shows that he can use Filippo Brunelleschi's new architectural style almost better than Brunelleschi, the very handsome buildings that he inserts into these reliefs. He shows that he can stage manage the large crowds of actors and make them all respond in a stirring way to the storyline that they are acting out in the manner that his contemporary Leon Battista Alberti describes in his book on painting, where he talks about the need that the artist be able to tell a story in a moving way. So the Gates of Paradise really have created enormous interest in the just few weeks since we have them in the museum. In addition, the silver altar from the baptistry, created across more than a century in time, starting in the later 14th century and ending in the late 15th century, also recently restored, magnificently installed on the upper floor of the museum, draws people, I think in part because of the extraordinary riches that are displayed, 250 kilograms of pure silver in the altar and the large cross made to stand above it. And then for the fame of many of the artists who worked on it, Antonio Pollaiuolo, Andrea del Verrocchio, other masters of absolutely stellar status. And then the standard works for which the museum has always been known, the carved marble organ lofts, so-called cantorie, singing galleries by Luca della Robbia and Donatello, the statues by Donatello and other early 15th century masters, the wood models, very large in scale, about 2.5 feet tall, made to show the Grand Duke of Tuscany what the new facade he wanted for the cathedral would look like in the 16th and early 17th centuries. The museum has works that have always drawn the cognoscenti, those who are a bit informed, who know what to look for in Florence. Now, with the Gates of Paradise, I think it draws even larger crowds. The challenge for us is to help people understand and fully enjoy what they see.
We then asked Monsignor Verdon what artworks are often overlooked by visitors.
Well, as in any museum, there are many. Here, most visitors have some difficulty with the earlier sculpture. We have 40 pieces from the original facade of the cathedral, begun in 1296, but never finished and dismantled in 1586-87. Among these, the most famous are by the sculptor architect who designed and began work on the cathedral, Arnolfo di Cambio. And these, in their own time frame and in their own category, are absolute masterpieces. They're among the finest pieces of Italian medieval sculpture. People, of course, come to Florence looking for the Renaissance, and they tend not to advert to the beauty of these works, nor perhaps to understand how absolutely functional they were in developing what later is called the Renaissance. Again, one of the tasks that we face is to help people read the entire collection in organic terms, understanding how the more famous pieces that are later than the 13th century really do grow out of this earlier Florentine tradition. Then, even among the Renaissance works, people come and usually look at only about 2 of the Donatello statues for the bell tower, the famous Zuccone and the Jeremiah, whereas others of them, and especially the extraordinary Abraham about to sacrifice his son Isaac by Donatello, tend to be overlooked. It is a superb work and worthy of a place in all of the history of art manuals that it has not achieved for reasons that escape me.
Upstairs on the second floor, visitors can see the original machines that Filippo Brunelleschi used to build the cathedral's revolutionary massive dome. For more information on the museum, see www.operaduomo.fi.it.